I own the company. Between Tammy and my VAs, they pretty much run 85 to 90% of it. I sit on the high level, make sure I feed ideas. They come to me when there's maintenance issues and they're not sure how to handle them.
You're asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Smart people would know how to use all these different tools. They
start with something small.
You'll never get your entire organization if you don't pull off operations. Don't give up.
It can be as small as that.
I think you guys are going to have our last today.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Delegate That podcast, where we discuss the art and science of business management, delegation, and leadership. Today, I am your host, 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝘀𝘆, and today I am stoked to have a good conversation with Delegating Tellier. I'm really looking forward to hearing your story, hearing a little bit more about what you have going on, how you use delegation, leadership, and management, and everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. So, if you can, let's get us rolling by a quick introduction. Tell us about yourself and tell us about your business.
Appreciate it, Adam. It's always good to see you, and appreciate the invite to come on. So currently, I live in East Tennessee in the Great Smoky Mountains, tourist town, USA. If you don't like tourists and you don't like people, you don't want to be here. I really don't like tourists and I don't like people, but it works good for business. So, I'm here. I am a full-time real estate agent. I'm on somebody else's team. With that, I do have some support with there, but I also own and operate 12 short-term rentals, which I run it as a business. And previous lifetime, before I got into real estate, I was a service manager and service director over a group of Harley-Davidson dealerships and had as many as 50 employees under me, including management levels all the way down to the bottom. That's where I got all my leadership and management and delegation experience, was getting to do it in there. So even now that I'm in a very small business and kind of solopreneur in a lot of cases, all that experience I have from before applies even when it's in a small environment. And even though I'm an agent on somebody else's team, the leader of the team often comes to me and says, hey, what do you think I should do about this situation? Because I have that background and that experience. So yeah, real estate, short-term rentals, Smoky Mountains, beautiful part of the country. And that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, you definitely have the look of somebody who rides Harley-Davidsons and used to work at Harley-Davidson. So I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I am the 80s rocker, Harley-Davidson biker. My Instagram tag, which I don't really follow, is running biker realtor.
Okay.
When I got into real estate, I had also started getting into running and fitness and decided I was going to brand myself. That was before I got into the short-term rental side, and I just kind of ran with it and kept it. So yeah, I kept it alive.
Do you feel overwhelmed with mundane tasks that eat up your valuable time? It's time to reclaim your schedule and focus on what truly matters. Get your time back with elite remote talent without the time zone hassle. Delegate $10 an hour tasks to focus on more $1,000 an hour tasks. Schedule your free strategy call at 𝗺𝗷𝘁𝗀𝘃.io.
Well, let's kind of dive in then with the short-term rentals. I want to make sure that we're hitting some of the things, obviously, that you learned on the Harley-Davidson side and how you're applying them today in what you're doing. So you're managing 12 short-term rentals, or at least you own 12 short-term rentals. I shouldn't say you're managing them. We'll discuss that. But also trying to be a full-time real estate agent. So how do you kind of balance all of those? What does your personal team kind of look like to make sure that all of your ducks are in a row?
Yeah. So from the real estate side, I have a transaction coordinator that comes into play only once we're under contract on something. Back in 2020, 2021, when things were a lot busier, a lot crazier, it was a lot more. Back then, it was a lot of 13-hour days, 7 days a week. 2021, I hired my daughter to come and work for me as my full-time assistant. Made sense. I needed a shadow because I was trying to do all of those things. The goal then was to develop her into taking over the real estate agent side of things. And as my portfolio grew, she really took to the short-term rental side of things. So she kind of acted as my primary source of just about everything on the short-term rental. She would create the listings. She was handling guest communication. She was running a lot of the day-to-day stuff in the short-term rental side of things. Over time, working with family can be a struggle, can be a challenge. We hired a VA to come in. That VA didn't do great. We used a headhunter service, started out okay, but over a few months, she just really wasn't developing, wasn't picking up, wasn't retaining information. I needed her to be an admin to create the systems and pick up on the stuff we were saying, and it wasn't working. So it was just my daughter and I. At the end of 23, the decision was made that working together was not good for our relationship as a father-daughter. So we parted ways business-wise, and for a very short window of time let me try to think, that was the beginning of 23. That was the beginning of 24. At the beginning of 24, I was by myself. Real estate had slowed down, but I was doing all of it, and I knew I wasn't going to do any of it well. So I had started marketing, trying to find somebody to bring on my team as kind of a full-time operator for the management side of things. I connected with a lady who got involved and felt like she could do a lot for me. Now, she had a full-time job. I couldn't afford to hire her full-time for my rentals. So within about 2 weeks, she's like, okay, I like this VA idea. Let me help you find a VA. So she did a lot of the legwork. So that was the first step. I did all the legwork, or I used a headhunter on the front end, and it wasn't a great experience. I used her to now funnel and find the good VA candidates. And then I interviewed them, and we ended up finding one that has turned out to be an absolute rock star, just stellar. She's been with me for over a year now. So I delegated the task of finding the candidates to her, so I wasn't having to sort through all these people. And then once we found that person, it was really easy. If you find the right person, it was really easy to just start adding things to her. I'm still to this day continuing. She is my primary that I delegate things to. So I have both of those people now. My full-time VA, we have another part-time VA that covers weekends. And I still have this lady, Tammy, who kind of helps with the higher level stuff of the short-term rentals, the revenue management, the listing management, and that kind of thing. So 12 short-term rentals. I technically own the property management company that manages them. We have it structured as a management company. I own the company. Between Tammy and my VAs, they pretty much run 85 to 90% of it. I sit on the high level, make sure I feed ideas. They come to me when there's maintenance issues and they're not sure how to handle them. I'm local, so sometimes I'm just the maintenance guy. Sometimes they'll just delegate to me to say, hey, there's a problem here. And instead of paying $150 to send a handyman out there, I'm like, I'm in the neighborhood. I'll just go drive by and take care of it. So that's what that team looks like.
So how long did it take you? You said it was just in a couple months, the first VA, you realized it wasn't the right fit. And what would you say, what would you say were the indicators? Why did you hire them? And what did you see that was the opposite of what you hired them for that was not actually meshing well?
Well, when you hire like that, and again, using a headhunter service, they're feeding you just, candidates. You're looking at them, you're interviewing. And at some point you just go, well, this is the best one I've seen so far. It's not like it was a situation where she felt good. She interviewed well. She said all the right things. Her reliability was not there. Gaps in, she's in the Philippines and my current VA is in the Philippines. So it's a 12-hour time difference. So if I've got them working, call it 9 to 6 Eastern time, that's 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. They're working overnight. And if it's a little bit slow, because there's days, even with 10 or 12 short-term rentals, there's days that you don't get a lot of messages. There's a lot of downtime. So there was a lot of situations where my biggest thing, my number one rule in the business is you reply to a guest within absolutely maximum 10 to 15 minutes. I want to be within 2 to 3 minutes, if not immediate. I want to see that reaction. Those were the expectations I tried to set. She wasn't doing that. It turned, she was falling asleep. She was doing other stuff. She just was not there. I wasn't using any software to track her screen time or anything like that. I wasn't using some of the tools that are available, but it was clear that this wasn't happening. The problem was, like most of us, I let this go on way too long. I saw the signs. I'd have a conversation with her and then I'd let it go. And then same thing would be happening. She'd be asking questions that 6 months in, I kept her for about 8 months, 9 months. And like I said, that was about 5 or 6 too many. She was asking questions that she should have known by that point. It's redundant questions. I asked her to create resources so she would have things to look at. She just wasn't doing that. So finally it got to the point where it was like, you're just not meeting the expectations of what I have. And it's clear that it's not going to happen. So that was when it was cut the ties.
So it's one of those things that when you bring in, especially a VA, like I always try to tell people that at the beginning, those first couple months are probably the hardest. That first month, at least, is the hardest. You're working kind of double the amount because you're teaching somebody how to do it. But after that, you should be at a point, by month 3, you should be at a point where you're able to let it go, and not have to worry about it. So if you're at that second month and you're still kind of going, I don't really know, it's maybe time to really have a heart-to-heart conversation and understand. So, you brought in another VA, right? With I think you said her name was Tammy, hired the new VA, right? So how did that conversation go? How did she work through hiring? Obviously, it kind of you let go of that one and just let her do it. So how did she work through the hiring, and what were the differences with this new VA compared to the last one?
I let her act as the headhunter on that one. I still did the interview. I still made the decision on who to hire. This one, just the interview went really well. When I do interviews with people, and I did this in my previous career as well, my interviews were very conversational. They weren't a very structured interview. I had certain things I would ask, certain questions. Obviously, in that business, there had to be a skill set for certain roles, but I kept it very conversational. I wanted to see who this person was, because integrity and how a person reacts to me is way more important than their skill set. The skill set can be taught if they show that they have the ability to learn. So this girl, again, interviewed really well. I mean, she just said all the right things. Her English was very clear and very, clean. She had no problem being willing to get on the phone and talk to guests or people that if she needed to. She just seemed, again, people interview well sometimes and don't come up here, but she was heads and shoulders above the other ladies we had found in interview, just in her demeanor. Seemed to have a lot. She lived at home, 25, had a lot, just had I could sense that spirit, that integrity, that hard work, that work ethic that you just don't see a lot in younger generations anymore. I could just sense that in her. So it was kind of a no-brainer as far as we've interviewed all these people. She seemed really good. This one didn't feel like it was, well, this is the best we have found. This one really felt like, man, this is like, I don't know that we need to interview anybody else. We did, but it was like she really felt good. And then instantly, she just hit the ground running. She had processes and systems written up and documented within the first couple of weeks that my previous, after 8-9 months, had never done. She just she posed ideas, hey, she said, can you get me videos? Can you go do a walkthrough video of the cabin? I started going and doing videos of my cabin so she could review the video when somebody asked a question that she wasn't sure of. And these were ideas that she had. We, fast forward, get a few months in, we switched property management softwares, which anybody in the short-term rental business knows. When you switch from one PMS to another, it is a major undertaking. And I was switching to OwnerRez. Again, if you're in the short-term rental business, you know that setting up OwnerRez is complicated. It is a great software that does just about anything you could ask. But the biggest complaint that most people have about it is it's so technical that it's very complicated to set up. She ran with it. I mean, I would go through and review and say, hey, I don't like the way you did this. She was on it. She was taking care of it. Instantly, she was, when a guest would send a message, sometimes I'd still get the notification. The notification would pop on my phone, and my instinct would be to go look at it, and she was already replying. I mean, she was just hitting everything exactly what I've wanted from her, and she's just continued to compound that.
Well, how would you say that when she first came in, how would you say your communication was with her that open that up to, because some folks have a real difficult time just jumping right in. Hey, that's the boss, especially some of the Filipino VAs. They're like, hey, it's the boss. I don't want to step on toes. I don't want to do certain things. I'm going to be you tell me what to do and then I'll come and do it. How did you set up the communication up front to make sure that was not an issue, that you were jumping right on it, that she was able to do what she needed to do to get the job done, the system set up, all of that?
Yeah, part of that is that the way I did the interview, the conversation, right? I kept it very conversational. I was aware of the culture. I was aware of how they tend to want to please, and they're really worried about offending. So I was very, very, very blunt and very straightforward to say, look, I understand what your culture is, and I want you to know that I had a rule. This came from my previous career, that I will never reprimand somebody for making the wrong decision for the right reason. So I want you to make mistakes, and I might get annoyed when you do it, but that's okay. It's because it was a momentary thing. I want you to learn. So I basically explicitly, without hinting, said, I want you to be in total control. Do not worry about offending me. Do not worry about, how I will react. I want you to ask any questions. If something doesn't seem right, whether it's another VA, whether it's me, whether it's Tammy, if somebody says something to you that you don't feel is right, I want you to question me about it. I think that's the most important thing. Don't sugarcoat, don't hide, and then live up to that, right? So then when they do come to you or when they do make a mistake, make sure you don't go off the handle. Make sure you don't make them feel crappy about it. Express that you realize, okay, I would not have done that this way. I might get frustrated for a moment, but I would not have done that this way. But here's how I would have liked you to do it. And now, very recently, the next step, AI is here. It's with us. And if you're not leaning into it, you're going to be left behind. So I am leaning into AI, and I have created a custom GPT in ChatGPT. Still not sure that that's the perfect software. Everybody knows OpenAI and ChatGPT. It's by far got the most market share. Reality is it's not the best program out there, but we're using it. And what I did was I created a custom GPT. I uploaded my own. I dabble in EOS, so a VTO, Vision Traction Organizer. Hopefully a lot of your audience is familiar with the general concepts of it. I uploaded my VTO to my custom GPT, and I gave it really long instructions about who was on the team, who it would be communicating with, where they were. I told it that my two VAs were in the Philippines, understand what the culture is. I gave it parameters and how I want it to respond. I want the VAs to be able to go into this thing and say, hey, the guest just said this. This is how I think I should respond. Is this worded correctly? And the GPT will basically take what they said and maybe bring it down into a more natural language. Like the Philippine VAs tend to be very formal, very polite, sounds very nice. But when you're dealing with a family who's on vacation in the Smoky Mountains, I want to keep it very blue collar. I want to keep it very natural. So I basically trained the GPT to help them get that kind of information. So that's a whole nother layer that they can now go to. And even if I can see all their conversations, so even I can see a conversation where they want to ask me something and they'll go to the GPT and say, how should I word this? And I think they realize I can see it if I go look, but they're using it to find out, and it's working. There's still a little bit of that language barrier, but this is another way of adding a layer to delegate things. So now they go to the GPT before they come to me. And then they come to me if they don't think it works or if they think it sounds off.
So you mentioned obviously EOS, and you had talked about how your assistants, when they came in, they started like kind of writing things up, putting in the, I guess for lack of better terms, SOPs. Did you already have some SOPs created before you brought in this most recent VA, or does she have to redo or do all of that for you?
We had my daughter had built some very loose stuff, more informational than it was a true SOP. And even a lot of the stuff we have now is a lot of just information on the properties, on the way we handle things, on certain aspects of it. It's not as pure a structured SOP as it should be. I recognize, again, back from my history, I recognize you really got to put things into a step-by-step, really simple, easy to understand process that anybody can do. But being such a small company and with no intent of getting significantly larger, and the reality is the GPTs are going to end up doing most of the work, I don't feel like taking the time to create those step-by-steps are critical now. But when I do, or if I want the VA to do it, the GPT is going to create it. Like, we're going to go to the GPT and say, hey, I want you to create an SOP for this. And it's going to be better than if I had written it or if she had written it anyway.
For sure. Yeah. And it's, again, utilizing AI is such a massive game changer for folks if they actually take the time to do it, to learn it, to go through it. Similar to hiring a VA, it's going to take a little bit of time up front to get yourself acquainted to what you need to do, how you need to word it. But man, oh man, does it make a difference. So what other tools do you guys have inside of your company to make sure that you're tracking your properties well, communicating well, that you're not dropping the ball anywhere or missing a booking or, screwing maintenance up? What sort of tools do you guys use to make sure that everything flows well?
So from the short-term rental side, the stack, if you will, there's a pricing software, Price Labs. There's ownerRez, which is the property management software. That's kind of the hub. That's where everything takes place. All our communication going out to guests, whether it's Airbnb, 𝗿𝗏, or any of those stuff, most of that is going through the ownerRez. We use Slack for communication within the team itself. Obviously, email is still critical. When we have direct bookings, that's all going directly through email. We use 𝗦𝗽cie𝗁𝗀 to keep up with a punch list of items that a guest might say, hey, we noticed this maintenance issue. They'll put it on 𝗦𝗽cie.com and flag me to review it so I can then, or they'll ask me, who should I call to get this assigned to? Some stuff they just know who to call. Other stuff, they'll reach out to me and just verify who I called. So we track that stuff on Monday. That helps to make sure. And then I've got some very basic stuff. I've got a Google sheet I keep that we all have access to that just has a list of things that aren't really high priority for each property, but they're things that I'd like to do. So I keep that just kind of as a living document so that I can resort back to. I got a little bit extra money in the operating account. We're a little bit slow. Here's a couple of projects I'd like to get done. Let's go ahead and knock those out and get ahead of things. I'm sure there's probably some other things that I'm forgetting or not thinking of, but that's the primary.
So you've got 12 short-term rentals. How much time would you say that you dedicate a week on that? Now that you have kind of the systems put in place, you got the people sit there. What sort of time commitment is that for you?
I personally, I don't need to spend this much time on the operations. I probably spend 5 to 10 hours a week. And that's anytime as an agent, I'm selling short-term rentals. So I'm used to coaching my clients as they're coming into this. And I tell them, you can't necessarily allocate or time block when you're going to work on your short-term rentals. There are certain things you can time block. If you are truly doing everything, then maintaining your listing and your pricing is something you can time block. But the most important thing is it is a hospitality business. So it is customer service. So you can't time block when guests are going to have questions or when something is going to break. So most of that 5 to 10 hours that I spend is getting involved because it's something that the VA can't handle. Or my VAs work 9 to 9. So if it's after 9, I have my alerts on, because if a guest has what I feel is a significant concern or question after 9 p.m., I don't want them to wait until morning. If they showed up at the property at 9:05 and they can't get in, I'm still going to respond to that. It doesn't happen often, but I'm still going to respond to that. So that's where most of my time is. There's certainly some high-level business operations stuff that I still do every day, and it's maintaining. And I'm not accounting for the accounting and the bookkeeping. I have a bookkeeper, but I still keep track of my own accounting, paying bills. I still do all that myself. I like to do that because it is not a cash-heavy business in the sense of reserves. I do live, month to month in that space. I don't really take a lot of money out of the business. I just keep reinvesting it. But nevertheless, I'm OCD about knowing where my money in my business is. Blows my mind when I see business owners. I get it on a big business, but on smaller business, blows my mind when business owners have no idea how much money they have in their checking account. That blows my mind. So anyway, so that I'm still doing that kind of stuff, and I'm not taking that into account because I'll spend a few hours a week on that. But I don't feel like that's fair to call business operations, because that's stuff I really don't need to do. That's stuff I have a bookkeeper. All my official books are in QuickBooks, and I never look at that, but I still know where I'm at.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with 12 rentals, 5 to 10 hours a week is a pretty solid way that you've set yourself up to allow the rest of your team to knock that out. So
yeah, absolutely. They handle 90%, 95% of all the guest communication. I'll still watch because I want to coach them. So if I see something that I probably need to detach more, but if I still look at some of the conversations, and if I see something that I feel like maybe they didn't quite answer it the way I would have liked them to, I will coach them on it and let them know, hey, I saw this message. I would have said this, and help them learn.
Well, I think that's being a good involved leader and letting them know. And it's some quality assurance, making sure that things are going the way that they need. Because like you said, it is so much a hospitality game inside of the short-term rentals, and like one wrong return message turns into a negative review as opposed to a 5-star great review. I love this place, and I'm coming back next year. You know.
Yeah, well, I tell them the same. The same aspect. Again, this goes back to my years in Harley-Davidson. And this is true of any business. Screwing up does not get you a mad customer. How you handle a screw up is what gets you a mad customer. In the Harley business, and even with some of in my short-term rentals, even some of my guests, some of my best customers and clients, some of the ones that absolutely fell in love with us and keep coming back, are the ones we screwed something up on. But we handled it so well and addressed it right away that it showed them how much we gave a crap and makes them want to come back. I think most people recognize that none of us in business are perfect. If you're trying to be perfect and put out a perfect product every single time, you're going to miss the boat. One, you're not going to get it out because you're going to be waiting too long. But two is people understand that we all make mistakes and we're all human. You have those people that don't understand that, and you write them off when something happens. I've had guests that are like, man, there's nothing we could have done to please this person. So we chalk it up to it is the cost of doing business, and we move on. And they're one guest. And the great thing about short-term rentals is when you have a really bad one, within a couple of days, they're gone. And yeah, you might get a bad review, but you've got 20, 30, 50 other good reviews that will help bury it in no time.
For sure. Yeah. And it's a fickle thing there that it feels like it's so rough in the moment, but afterwards you realize, you know what, it is what it is. And in every business, you're going to have those customers you can't please. And in Airbnb and short-term rentals, I should say, same thing. You have professional tenants, just like in long-term real estate where they're like, I know just the buttons to push to get this trip for free, and I'm not going to have to worry about it, and it's just annoying. But again, cost of doing business, put it in your books, put it in your projections, move on with it. That's one of the things when I talk to people on the real estate side, it's like, okay, well, you're getting ready to move. I help coach a lot of military members as they're PCSing or they're moving all over the world. And it's like, hey, when you rent your house out, just know that the next tenant's not going to treat it like it's their home. It's, just be okay with it. You got to be okay with things in business going awry. So, it is what it is. Don't worry about the hole in the wall. That's part of the business. You've got money on the side in your bank account for that. Don't worry about the insurance claim. It is what it is. That's why you have insurance. It's hard to do that, but you got to be a duck sometimes. Let the water roll down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't bring this up at the beginning. There's a third business that I'm involved in. It's not a whole lot of delegation because it's a startup and it's a 2-man team. And you're familiar with 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝗀𝘀𝘀, GoBundance member. So a lot of guys, probably some of your audience might be familiar with GoBundance and Klae. Klae started a business that was originally going to be a business of a business mastermind tied in with like outdoor adventure type stuff. So instead of going to a hotel and sitting in a conference room, it was going to be go out and do cool stuff during the day, and then we're going to have fireside chats at night, and that's where our masterminding is going to be, which is not too far off from a GoBundance event. We're just going to take the boardroom aspect out of it. Anyway, that developed into an AI tech company. Big transition. And he's been developing a health app for business leaders called Health Rocket. And he started Health Rocket Ventures, the business, to build this app. I was an original investor in the original concept, which was called Grit Games. I was an original investor in the Grit Games. And at the end of 24, when he decided he was going to pivot and go into the tech side, he tried to recruit me to be his integrator, if you will, to be that role, that finance and operations role. And I turned him down. I'm like, man, I got too much stuff going on, and I'm way too flaky to take on a role in a startup. Well, fast forward 3 months in, February of this year, the guy who he had brought in to do that role bailed on him. He was like, man, I'm not feeling it. This isn't where I want to be. So he hit me up again. So now 2 times comes around. I'm like, all right, I think I got to take this. So I looked at the numbers. So I jumped in with him, and we were a 3-man team at that point, and now we're a 2-man team. So Klae and I are building an AI tech company, and Klae runs AI microtribe for GoBundance. He does a lot of stuff with AI. It's really developed, and we're in a pivot point now where we're going to get this app out because that's what we started, but we're going to do other stuff related to AI. So where that goes, we don't know. But Clay's vision of this company is that it'll never have more than 3 operating partners, and it'll never have employees. Our delegation is going to be to our AI agents. So we are literally building a company that is going to be run, and this, I mean, eventually a multi-million-dollar company that is going to be almost entirely run by AI agents with a little bit of human interaction. And when we talk about delegation today, we talked about AI a little bit. This is something that's a whole nother level. I mean, the AI is doing the coding. I mean, Clay is not coding. Clay is not a coder. Clay is using AI to actually build all the code and everything within the app. So that is the future of delegation, where if you don't know how to ask the AI to do something, and we've built a company on it. So that's a whole nother level of, and again, one other thing that I'm in the middle of doing right now.
Yeah, of course. And when you're basing it that way, your, as you worded it earlier, flakiness is a little bit less of a concern, right? Because when it's built that way, it's one of those that even, you know, when you have the chance, you go in, you punch something into the AI, you go through it. And by no means do I want anybody to hear where that, oh, well, this is just something that just runs. I don't have to do anything. No, you still have, it's still a business that you still need to take care of, and you still need to keep your eyes on, and you still need to manage, and you still need to do this stuff. So don't just think that AI is going to be your catch-all for everything, but it allows you the ability to be able to spread yourself out a little bit more and touch things that you wouldn't have been able to touch before. So I love that you guys are doing it. I was one of the folks, I was this close to being one of those initial investors in Grit Games, but with everything else I had going on at the time, it was difficult for me to jump in. I'm really sad that I didn't, but
it was, it's like you said, it's like anything. You definitely, it's a tool to help you move faster with fewer people. It's not a plug and play and it's done. We're constantly learning. We're constantly evolving with it. The tools are constantly getting better. But like anything, what you put in what comes out is only going to be good as what you put in. So if you're not asking the right questions, if you're not making sure and verifying the data and asking all the information, then you're going to end up with really poor results. And most people who start playing with AI, at first they're like, wow, this is really cool. And then they start hitting that brick wall of feel like they're getting a bunch of really bad information and they don't feel like it's helping them at all. And usually it comes down to they're leaning too much on it. They're not giving it enough context or enough information to determine for it to give them appropriate answers.
Yep, for sure. And I mean, honestly, it's the same thing with your employees, AI and your employees. If you're not giving the right information for them to do their job, it's just not going to do its job. The only thing that the employee has is the ability to ask the question back and the ability to think about their previous experience. So you still have to put the right input into your team. But Derek, it was awesome to kind of chat with you, learn about all the things you have going on. I appreciate you sharing your tools, your insights. If folks are hearing this and they're like, hey, maybe they want to buy a house in the Smokies, or maybe they just want to learn more about what you have going on or learn about Health Rocket, what's the best way for folks to be able to reach out to you?
If it's just general, Derek at 𝗟𝗽𝗀𝗃.com. It's my name. That will get to me. I monitor that email. If it's short-term rental specific, check out the short-term shop. I'm Derek at theshorttermshop.com if you want to specifically get into the short-term rental game in the Smokies. But again, Derek at 𝗟𝗽𝗃.com. And if you can, my website is just crap. Mountain Mist Cabins is my rental business. So you can go to Mountain Mist Cabins if you just want to come vacation in the Smokies. You want to stay at one of my cabins or check them out. There's another website. So.
Well, load it up. I love what you're doing. I love the Smoky Mountains too. It's a beautiful area out there. I went there last year and absolutely enjoyed the heck out of it. So, but Derek, thank you again for jumping on. Thank you everybody for listening and tuning in. Please share what your favorite part of this podcast was, this conversation was. Put it in the comments. Let us know. Share it with somebody that you think would garner some great information out of this, which would be anybody. So share it with everybody. But thank you again, everybody, for listening. Thank you again, Derek, and we'll see everybody on the next show.
Thanks, Adam.